The Sega Dreamcast is simply one of the best video game consoles ever, but even though it had a short life, it had a ton of peripherals, and one of them is an awesome arcade racing wheel. So today I try to play all the games that this actually works with, and hopefully find some hidden gems.
Second Opinion Games.
So here's the Dreamcast racing wheel. We don't have any gearbox or pedals down below, so we just have an up arrow key, a down arrow key, the B button, the A button, turning left and right, of course a start, and the flippers, which are the left and right triggers. Now, in order to actually use this, you're gonna have to use some C-clamps to clamp it to whatever you wanna know, because even though it is heavy, well, you know what? It does slide around quite a bit. This is my very best setup that I've came up with, and I love it. So let's take a look at the games. 18-wheeler, a game where you could race a giant semi across the country, and it is super freaking difficult. I've also played this on the Nintendo GameCube. However, the racing wheel makes it far more fun and playable. However, the game itself is so freaking hard, you're probably never going to finish it. So put in some cheat codes and have at it, because it's a ton of fun. And the characters here, freaking awesome. Four-Wheel Thunder is an indoor-outdoor style game where you get to race around a track. Of course, you pick up the nitrous to boost around corners. The controls are a little bit slippery, but it overall works great with the racing wheel. And this is a very fun game, if not feeling a little too average. Aqua GT, a game that's not Hydro Thunder, and it very well knows it, because it's really bland and boring. Also, the controls don't line up exactly with the racing wheel, so I don't recommend playing it with the wheel itself. It does make the game slightly more fun, but not fun enough to keep playing. Hey, crazy taxi time, and this controller feels like it's absolutely made to play this game. It is flawless in every way. It's definitely better than the Xbox 360 version for playing it, so I strongly recommend picking up a wheel to play it on the Dreamcast. Also, Crazy Taxi 2 has a lot more elements involved. You can pick up multiple passengers at the same time. The character selection is terrible, though. I absolutely hate all of the people that I get to play as. You know what? It is slightly better than the first game. However, the music, not as good. Daytona USA, the game that I think it was actually built entirely around this racing controller, because when I play with a real controller, I can't do anything. The controls are way too slippery, and I just go flying off the road. Here, I could actually finish a race. There's also more to experience here than even in the arcade. When it comes down to playing the Xbox 360 version or this one, I still have a tough time. Granted, I'm not any better at the game for it. Matter of fact, I think I suck, even though there's 5 tracks here to race around instead of just the 3. You know what? I still have a great time any way you look at it. Daytona USA, you're always one of my favorite games ever. Demolition Racer No Exit is a somewhat generic racing game that I can never get enough of, and playing with the racing wheel just seems to fit perfectly. You can destroy other cars as you go around the track. You can play a full-on demolition mode where you just try to smash in everything. When your car is done, you are done, however. That means you're out of the race, so make sure you pick up the power-ups and all the repairs to get to the finish line intact. This is a really fun game, and I recommend you should give it a try. Ducati World, it's a motorcycle game, and well, it doesn't seem to work very well at all. Granted, I am terrible at sim racing games, but I'm pretty sure this is not working. F1 World Grand Prix. It's another sim racing game, which means I can't keep it on the road. However, it does seem to be working right, even though I am terrible at it. The graphics are beautiful, and the music in the background is just good enough to keep me playing. Long enough for me to realize it's not. F35 Challenge. This has an auto braking feature, which means it's a little bit more playable to people that aren't really into sim racing games. It's also fast, fun, and somewhat arcadey action. However, I still slip around all over the place, but that's just me sucking, not the game being terrible at all. Kart racing. Wait, is it really just called kart racing? I'm not even sure about the title here, but I'm jumping into it, and this is definitely the best of the F1 style games. I can control myself all the way around the track, and I'm actually having a really good time and not being terrible. Also, sometimes dirt ends up on your windshield, and you just have to wipe it off with your hand. Actually, that's not your windshield, that's your helmet. Man, this game is realistic and awesome. Well, realistic in the fact that, I didn't die so far, but it is definitely fun all the way through. I strongly recommend. Hydro Thunder! That's right, Sega knows how to use the controller that it itself made to make awesome arcade racing games, even if it's in a boat. Now, I will recommend picking up Hydro Thunder on the Xbox 360 and using the racing controller for that over this one, but beggars can't be choosers, and you cannot go wrong with Hydro Thunder on your Dreamcast, especially because of just the funny Dreamcast graphics. I love the art style that the Dreamcast itself uses, and I can spot it a mile away, even compared to the GameCube itself. I love this game, and I love my Dreamcast. Looney Tunes Space Race. Now, this is a fast Mario Kart style game where you have to pick up weapons and destroy your opponents, and I do think it's an official hidden gem of the console. However, it doesn't play as good on the racing controller as a regular controller that you fit in your hands, and if you're playing with friends, it would be a little douchey if you had your racing controller and they still had the standard Dreamcast controller. Don't do that to your buddy. Be on the same level, for God's sakes, even if you are crippling yourself by using the racing wheel for this game. It's also a heck of a lot of fun, so make sure you give it a try. Magforce Racing. Well, this is just kind of weird. Your ship/vehicle thing is unbelievably huge. However, the controls seem to be spot on, and the tracks are really creative because you're essentially magnetized to the track. You can drive up the walls and do a whole bunch of other stuff. You can also pick up some boosts and bonuses and things. This is just unusual to play. However, it all seems to work, and I can't stop playing it. And it also seems to work great with the Metropolis Street Racing. This is also in the Project Gotham Racing series because it uses the whole kudos points, and it's really dark. So dark that you cannot turn on your headlights because there's no button mapped to it, which means you should never use the steering wheel controller to play this game. It's also just really hard in general, and I don't really care for that. Pod Speed Zone, a racing game that controls quite good, especially with the steering wheel, and the graphics look beautiful. The maps are huge and very convoluted, so sometimes I don't remember where to go. Also, when you hit the wall just a little bit, sometimes you could be turned around in such a way where it takes multiple seconds to get back on track, meaning that if you screw up once, you are completely screwed here, which is very frustrating because overall I'm having a lot of fun playing it. It's just I'm not one of those people that can play a map perfect every single time. I always crack under the pressure, so I can't recommend this game. Revol, a toy racing game, and I love playing as a small thing in a giant world, and I love the whole toy aspect. My biggest problem with the game is that when I play on a standard controller, it's way too slippery. When I play on this controller, I'm still slipping around a little bit, and I play a lot better, but the best I can do is one lap around before I screw up, and it has the same problem the previous game had. I will always come in last place because one screw up means you're done playing. I wish I could get more into this game. Roadsters. Well, this is an all-woman racing game, which means it controls as if you were a woman playing the game, which means you're going to smash into everything all the time. Boy, this game is just terrible. It's a great woman driving sim, though, because it actually makes me feel like I'm a woman driver. Well, good job, Dreamcast. San Francisco Rush 2049, a futuristic arcade racing game with tons of branching paths, hidden secrets, and just a great game to explore. I do like playing it a little bit more on the GameCube, even though I have to use a standard controller there, but it's still a good game on the Dreamcast, and if you do play on the Dreamcast, definitely use the arcade racing wheel. It's still kind of fun, just not as good of an arcade experience as some of the other games we already talked about. Sega Rally 2, Sega Rally Championship. Is that really the name of the game again? Why say it so much? Okay,
So this is a rally racing game, which means it's part sim, and because it's Sega, it's part arcade, which means you're going to slip all around the tracks, and you're going to have a great time doing it, and it doesn't penalize you that much for not really staying on the road. However, it's also really difficult, and you're gonna want to learn all the little quips and qualms of this game in order to get good at it, because it's just a heck of a lot of fun. I've played it on the GameCube, and I didn't like it nearly as much, probably because it seems to be built for a racing wheel. Why didn't the GameCube get a racing wheel anyway? Probably because they can't build one as good as Sega. South Park Rally, one of the worst racing games I've ever played in my life. Seriously, I would stay away from every South Park game from like the Xbox 360 and down. Well, maybe not the Xbox 360, there's one or two good ones on that system, and it's a downloadable thing, which you can't even access now. Just stay away from Nintendo 64 and Dreamcast South Park games. Speed Devils. This is a game that I often forget that I even have, let alone know exists. Even though every time I put it in, I'm surprised how well it plays and how great of a time I have with it. Of course, it's more of an arcade style, and it's just plain fun to play. Now, in a world where there are a crap tons of racing games, it's easy to just say it's another arcade style and it's just not that good, so why bother even play it? Well, this one really changed my mind every single time I put it in, because it's just fun. Spirit of Speed 1937. This is why I forget about the previous game, because I always think of this game when I hear the word speed and Dreamcast, and this game is complete and total trash. I hate it on every possible level. Probably the only racing game I think is worse is that South Park game. Star Wars Demolition. It's really bad, guys. I know that you should not be using this steering wheel to play the game, but you can sort of kind of do it, so I tried it, and it's just terrible. Also, I played Pod Racer, which is one of my favorite games for the system, and yeah, there's not enough buttons here, so you're gonna die repeatedly because you can't turn the ship sideways through those tight cracks. Man, that really sucks. Stunt GP, another toy racing game where you get to race around the track, and this time you have to keep a close look on your battery. Of course, you can use turbo, but that will drain your battery, and when your battery is dead, you completely cannot go on in this game. The tracks are also great because they really take advantage of the fact that they don't have to fit in a normal box of what normal reality could be, because these are toys racing around a track. I have a good time with this one, and just remember, keep your batteries well charged. Super Roundabout, a mission-based game where you could, do missions like run over bombs to, not have them blow up and kill everyone. That's really not the best way to disarm a bomb, but you know what? Who am I to judge? This is a kind of fun game. It is much better with the controller than the steering wheel, and I love how they give you a little bit of wiggle room. If you run into something, it doesn't make you slow down to a crawl. It's just an overall kind of fun game, and one most people completely forgot. Test Drive 6, a game that I love and hate. Why would I possibly hate it? Well, the fact that it only has like 5 songs, and I keep on hearing that one song, Cars, all of the time. It really started to drive me crazy the longer I played the game. And why would I play the game so long? Because it actually plays beautifully. And using the racing controller, it just makes it play even better. I really love this game. I hate the soundtrack though, which is kind of funny because I like the songs on the soundtrack. I just don't like hearing them non-stop for hours on end. It's a total love-hate simulator. Test Drive Lamas. It's a sim racing game, which means I'm terrible at it. However, if you happen to be a pregnant woman, supposedly it can help you give birth better. So it has that going for it. Test Drive V Rally. It's also one of the most beautiful games on the system, but again, sim racer, so I can't keep it on the road, and I can't seem to do anything with it. It's a shame, but hopefully your results TNN Hardcore Heat. This is an arcade racing game, which of course I'm gonna love it when I jumped in and picked my female character driver, but I probably shouldn't have done so because now I can't keep the car on the road and I smash into everything. And to make things worse, I hear my girl screaming in agony every time I run into any little thing. Wait, on second thought, I don't like this game at all, which is a shame because it seemed to have a really good premise going on. Tokyo Extreme Racer. This is a terrific game. You have to import it, of course, because for some reason we never got it. You flash your lights to track down other drivers that might want to race. You stay on the course, and after a period of time, if you stay in front of them for so long, well, you win the race, which also means if you stay behind them so long, well, you lose the race, and you just try and find another person to race against. Now, they did make a sequel to this game, and that's just as good, if not a heck of a lot better. The controls feel exactly the same for either game, but there's just a lot more gameplay in the second one, because they pretty much already perfected how to do it. Toy Racer, a game where you race from checkpoint to checkpoint. You can pick up different guns and weapons, sort of like Mario Kart style, but not really. The controls are darn near perfect. But the big problem with it is this was meant to be an online game to play with other people, and the online is completely shut down, making this game really worthless. However, I did hear that some people managed to reconfigure some stuff to get it to work online for modern day gamers. I just can't figure out how to connect to that server. So, well, here's to the future, maybe one day. Vanishing Point. Okay, this is the game that you absolutely have to try, if not for some of those other arcade-style racers, because this one has a mission mode which tests your skills and gets you pumped, and when you accomplish your mission, well, then you feel awesome. It also has full-on racing modes, and they feel great as well. This is one of the true hidden gems of the system, and most people never even knew it existed. Please, if you are a Dreamcast collector, this is a must-have in your collection. Wacky Racers, a game that I kind of like. It's Mario Kart style. It is a little bit slower. Using the racing controller here is very difficult to do because just setting up your power-ups to certain buttons seems difficult, like abnormally difficult. On the controller, it is much easier. And also because this game is definitely best played with a friend. Like I said earlier, don't be that douchebag that hogs the racing. Walt Disney's World's Magical Quest Racing. This is a racing game where I guess you're on a quest. There are lots of really cool characters to choose from, and sort of this Boris Karloff style character I absolutely love, and the gameplay is super fast. The controls actually fit with the racing wheel. The downside is you're playing a Mickey Mouse game, and for some reason, it doesn't feel right. Also, it doesn't feel nearly as good as Mario Kart, so why not just go play some Mario Kart? Okay, so that's it for the official racing games, but what if you modded your Dreamcast to play those Thomas Wave games? Well, then you'll be playing Faster Than Speed. It's a sort of dark racer, and I don't think you could use the nitrous because it's not mapped to one of the buttons on the controller itself, so you're kind of hindered dramatically. It also makes it a little bit funner to use the racing wheel, but it's not good enough. At least, not as good as our last game. Maximum Speed. This is probably the absolute best that the Dreamcast can do. First of all, with the racing wheel, it is absolutely perfect. As I round corners, I never feel like I'm completely losing control of my vehicle, and I feel like I am a racing champ. The graphics are about as beautiful as the Dreamcast could possibly push out. I just love it. Every time I want a fast arcade racing game for the system, rather than playing good old Daytona USA or even Crazy Taxi, I always play this one. Because it just makes me remember why I fell in love with the Dreamcast in the first place. And that's why it's my favorite game to play with the arcade racing wheel. But of course, that's just my opinion. Thanks for watching. Oh wait, you technically can play a couple of other games rather than just racing ones, like Bust-A-Move 4, where you can just sort of move back and forth and launch your balls. I am terrible at that. You can also play some of the spaceship shooters because you can move up and down with the controller itself. Wow. I don't recommend anyone try it, but Mr. Driller plays really darn good. I have a great time playing Mr. Driller with the racing controller, and I recommend everyone give that a try, as stupid as that sounds. But of course, that's why I love it. And I love you guys. So make sure you leave a comment in the comment box down below. What is your favorite racing game for the Dreamcast? And do you love the racing wheel? And until later, I will see you again, guys.